Another psychologist who has made a lot of contributions and impacted the behavioral science research is Robert Rosenthal. He was at Harvard University, and I had the pleasure of meeting him sometime in the year 1975 when I was working with David McClelland. Uh, Bob Rosenthal has done a lot of work, and he is known for his work on Pygmalion in the classroom. He borrowed this Bernard Shaw's concept of Pygmalion, where a flower lady, a lady that sells flowers on the streets, is converted by taking up as a challenge by a phonetics professor into a sophisticated society lady. I'm sure some of you have seen this interesting movie. In Hindi, of course, it is known as Manpasand, otherwise My Fair Lady. I think that is the film which talks about the Pygmalion phenomena. Uh, the Pygmalion in the classroom experiments done by Rosenthal and team in early 60s, written as a book Pygmalion in the Classroom, dealt with how expectations of people influence their own behavior and the behavior also of other people. For example, if a teacher has positive expectations of a child, he or she would behave in ways that the child will prove to meet his or her expectations. So, if you think that the child is bright and excellent and so on, in all likelihood, you will communicate the expectations, and the child will ultimately turn up to be a bright and uh, intelligent and high achievement kid as you expected and so on. Actually, Rosenthal and team carried out a series of experiments in schools where they asked, where they divided the students into geniuses and dullards and asked the same group of teachers to teach both these groups. By creating expectations in them that a group of children are bright or another group are not as bright, the the teachers ended up behaving in the same way that their expectations dictated. For example, in a classroom where a child belonging to a genius group asks a question, the teacher would go out of way to answer the question and keep saying, Sabash, wonderful, keep asking questions like this and encourage the child, because she starts with a preconceived notion this child is bright and is a genius. Whereas a similar question is asked in a classroom of those who are not dullards, who are not geniuses or average people, then the teacher probably would say there is no point. I mean, it doesn't matter if you don't know answers to this question. You are not required to know, and communicate the low expectations that she has on the kids, and ultimately the kids don't learn enough. So the actual experiments by Rosenthal and team indicated that teachers who taught children introduced as geniuses had, after teaching for a certain period, produced its children who are really good, outstanding in achievement, whereas the children who were introduced to them as not so good average people actually produced average or below average results. And what made the difference was actually the way the teachers treated the children and so on. This phenomena, when this book of course got published, it ran into a lot of controversies when the parents who came to know that the experiments were being conducted on their children protested and suggested that the behavioral scientists have no business to do these kinds of experiments on kids. Of course, in a lighter way, I would like to say, therefore, the psychologists went on proving the Pygmalion effect works also on animals and even plants. Subsequent experiments with albino rats and others showed that if you introduce the rats as genius rats and fast learning rats versus the rats that don't learn, and give it to a group of people who were not familiar with these rats and ask them to experiment, the chances are high that these groups of people will uh, report higher learning curves on the part of the rats that are introduced as geniuses, and low learning curves on the rats that were introduced as slow learners and things like that. I mean, in fact, there are experiments that prove that. Subsequently, based on Rosenthal's work, Pygmalion in the classroom. Same Rosenthal and team worked on how the Pygmalion phenomena works with managers and proved that by attaching people to bright and high performers and communicating to the performers, these people are high performers and so on, they are likely to create a high performing culture. Whereas by bringing down, uh, by putting associating people with low performers and communicating them as okay, it's okay to be uh, an average performer and so on, you will not be able to produce any great results and things like that. That means Pygmalion phenomena starts working. So Pygmalion phenomena are called as self-fulfilling prophecy. You start with a prophecy, you behave in a way that your prophecy is fulfilled. Now, where you acquire this prophecy, that depends upon so many circumstances. Maybe because of your own past prejudices, or maybe because of information given to by significant others and so on. A corollary to this theory is, if you want to improve people, start having positive expectations from them, and you can do hell of a lot in making even the dullards as geniuses if you have the right kind of expectations. There are many experiments that were conducted. There is also a beautiful film on Pygmalion in management, and in this film and in some of the articles, uh, very interesting things like one of the things that is reported is what is called Sweeney miracle, where a janitor in a computer center who was declared as not even capable of becoming a good typist was trained by the professor who took it upon him as a challenge, and subsequently the person even became in charge of the computer center and so on. So these very interesting theories of uh, Robert Rosenthal. Rosenthal is still living. I think he works somewhere in one of the universities in the east, in the west coast. I think California or somewhere probably he may be working. Um, you can type his name, Robert Rosenthal, and you will get a lot about his literature. One of the great contributions Rosenthal has made is also to develop a test of non-verbal sensitivity. When David McClelland visited us in India in the year 1975, he passed on a copy of that test to us. This test is a test which is very interesting test. It's a test of that makes sounds, that presents you a sliced parts of various feelings and emotions people express, like how an old lady feels at the death of a young death of her husband, or somebody feels at the just celebrating the success of a job promotion or a success in life and things like that. So these emotions are taken, they are videographed, they are audiographed, and they are sliced so that you can't exactly uh, get what it is, and they are played to you, and that you are asked to identify which is the emotion that is represented. Now, this is called a test of the extent to which you can be non-verbally sensitive, or one can call it as a test of empathy. About 5-6 years ago, I was trying to get hold of copies of this, and finally I succeeded in getting both a video form and audio form of this particular kind of a test. I have not been using it, but this is a great contribution Bob Rosenthal has made, because the contribution is that empathy is very important in terms of influencing the uh, impacting through your expectations the behavior of other people. So empathy develops a right kind of expectations and a positive kind of a thinking in you and so on. So Bob Rosenthal is a great guy, and I'm sure some of you will read his books, Pygmalion in the Classroom, if you can get it, or Pygmalion in Management, or Pygmalion Effect, and get benefit from this, and uh, developing right kind of expectations from people who work with you. All the best. Have right expectations. All the best from PBRS.